The U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission released its latest report to Congress last week. Along with a raft of criticisms of the Chinese government, the report also raised concerns over China's AI strategy. This followed hot on the heels of a paper by the National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence of the United States, which was published earlier this month. The document also accused China's, quote, authoritarian regime of state-directed espionage against the U.S.'s science and technology sectors. With both China and the U.S. vying for supremacy in the field of AI, who's ahead in the game, and why does the U.S. continue to level such allegations at China? Joining me for the discussion from Shanghai is Professor Wang Zhengxu, a deputy at the Department of Political Science at Fudan University, and from Washington, Douglas Smith, former Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Now, in 2017, China State Council, according to the report, China State Council announced that 2020 it wanted to achieve parity with all other countries regarding AI development. And the report also said that China wanted to become a global leader in theory, technology and application by 2030. Professor Wang, how accurate is this assessment of the report of China's goals in terms of AI? And if so, is China on track to meet these targets?
Oh, I think this is quite a reasonable prospect. You know, even today, it's been 2019, I think China is clearly one of the leading players in AI field, together probably with the United States, Germany, and Japan, and so on. So the likelihood of China being a leader in this field is, I think, quite certain.
In very simple words, because I have been reading Chinese history, for instance, and 100 and 150 years ago, China was so backward, right, that the country really could do nothing in terms of foreign aggression, and yet in just over 2 decades even, China is able to catch up so much. And as you say, China is on track to meeting these targets in AI development. Exactly, if I'm going to ask you to use one factor to summarize China's ability to achieve so rapidly, what would it be, Professor Zheng? Professor Wang?
I think in general China has two advantages in this regard. Really just it's about size. One is, I think, the size of the people, the number of people working in this field. This being a very promising field in terms of technology, in terms of business. So there are a lot of people, young people especially, invest their career in research, in commercializing these technologies. So you go to Shenzhen, there's a whole district that is devoted to AI industry. In Guangzhou, there's another separate city called Guangzhou Knowledge City that's devoted to AI and digital economy. In Shanghai too, I think one district is now especially ascribed to for AI development. Yeah. So the size of this, you can say, army. People doing research and commercializing these technologies is huge. And then the other side is about the market. You know, China being a very big market, the potential for the market to benefit from these technologies is huge. So that I think serve as a very big pulling factor for the development.
Right. Well, it sounds on the part of the United States that the U.S. is truly scared, feeling insecure about the possible catch-up of China. As I said, China only started to develop, 10, 20 years ago. So, Mr. Smith, is the U.S. suddenly losing confidence in itself, so scared of what China could possibly do in terms of AI?
I realize you'll find this shocking, but I'd say no.
No,
look, I think AI is a fascinating and rapidly evolving space. I would say one sort of sidebar note as China goes down this path. I mean, one of the things that AI is heralded to do is to take the human out of the equation, so to make things far more efficient. So the one great irony is, as China becomes more and more advanced in AI, it will actually put more and more people out of work, which is obviously an ongoing challenge with the Chinese government. It's how do you employ so many people? And I think AI on a global basis is, many, many countries are still trying to figure it out. With your introduction, I sort of laughed a little bit because it almost sounded as if it was the libertarians within the United States accusing the U.S. government of being authoritarian in how they use AI, particularly in the national security space. I think it is a rapidly evolving space. I think are the Chinese making leaps and bounds? Absolutely. But much like the United States, the Germans, the Qataris, the world over is focused on the elusive AI. What is it? What can they use it for? Where does it help? Interestingly, in the United States, I think they're beginning to turn the corner a little bit in terms of the fact that they are so far in front of the Chinese. They're learning what it can do, but also where AI perhaps doesn't have a role.
Well,
and so I think as the Chinese become more advanced in this, that's where they're also going to have to figure out where it makes sense and where perhaps AI isn't the solve-all for everything.
Well, the report actually says that China is ahead of or on par with the United States in technologies that are poised for transformational growth, from the application of AI, such as commercial and military strike-capable drones incorporating autonomous navigation. China trails the United States in autonomous vehicle technology, but is rapidly catching up. So that doesn't sound very much in sync with what you were saying, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I wouldn't put too much into one single report. I've actually spent a lot of time in the AI space. The reality is the amazing thing with AI and technology today, the smartphones we hold in our hands, it has leveled the playing field a lot. And I support your other guest's position that there are a lot of very smart young people in China working on this. But there are also a lot of very, very smart people in Silicon Valley, here in the greater DC area, who have been spending a tremendous amount of time on this.
Sure.
I think pretty much anyone would say that the United States is still overwhelming the leader in this space. The larger thing, though, I think we need to focus on is just exactly what is AI, what is it going to be used for, and where is it relevant? Clearly the Chinese are putting a lot of emphasis as it relates to military might. I think the U.S. is spending a lot of time not only in maintaining their supremacy in that space, but thinking about efficiencies as it relates to health care, general day-to-day life of people. So I think one report doesn't say it all. I think it's a vast and growing space, and that we'll just have to watch it closely.
Okay. Professor Wang, what are your feedback to what Mr. Smith has just alluded to? For instance, the kind of comparison between the two countries.
Mr.
Yeah, go ahead.
I like what Douglas or Mr. Smith said. I think one we have to remember, it's less about which country is better than the other. It's how promising this field is in terms of changing our lives, in terms of making better health care, in terms of really make our life better. Like yesterday we were with IT, with computer science professor. He said, later if your refrigerator can realize you already run out of eggs in your household, it can place the order for you, and then the eggs will be delivered automatically to your household. That kind of prospect, I think we should be quite happy to looking forward to. But I don't agree that China is putting more effort in the military dimension. I actually think the report is playing too much emphasis on that, saying China is investing in AI with the hope, in the military sense, China will be able to overtake the U.S. I think that's a misplaced charge. We can talk more about that later on.
So here's the big question: is such reports, because we were talking about two reports, are such reports, and in line with the kind of topic we talked about in the first half of this show, is the kind of China threat now in terms of in the field of AI being blown up out of proportion in the mind of some people, and this kind of artificial threat is preventing China and the United States to cooperate potentially, to really do something good together using AI for both peoples and for people in other parts of the world. Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I love that you bring that up, because I would have gone that way myself. I think absolutely. AI has an incredibly powerful effect at keeping people safe. I recently sat through a briefing on some young scientists here in the United States who are using AI to scan video images to help track down victims of human trafficking. I think something that both our countries can agree is a horrible crime, and we need to protect our citizens. I think in the area of healthcare, in the area of efficiencies in cargo, screening cargo, there's so many things that can keep both of our nations safer, more efficient, allow us to focus on what's important. Are our militaries competing? Of course they are. But I think there are, for every one of those, there are probably 10, as if not more important, social causes that AI can help solve to improve the quality of lifestyle within China.
Yeah,
whether it's particularly around the environment, which I think both countries can agree, we could use all the help we can in using smart technologies to improve the air we breathe.
Okay, sometimes we tend to be overly political because we talk about these subjects all the time, but really among the academics, among the business people, Mr. Smith, in the United States, are you seeing signs of people braving the political chill and doing the right thing, or are you seeing people being prevented from going the right direction because of the chilling politics between the two countries?
I think people are, particularly as we live through an incredibly complex political time in the United States, I think the people that want to do the right thing are realizing they need to keep doing it, and that this turmoil will pass, and that there are larger causes at play here. I mean, the unambiguous global warming is something that we all need to focus on, and if AI can play a role in doing that. And so I think, will they be public and shout from the rooftops and go on news programs? Maybe, maybe not. But is the work, important work, continuing to happen?
Okay.
Are cross-country partnerships continuing to happen? Professor exchanges between great universities happening? Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
And I think that will continue.
Good. Professor Wang, looking from the Chinese side, what signs are you seeing? Very briefly, please.
No, I think the two countries should really think in terms of positive sum scenario in this kind of fields. I don't think either country should worry in terms of civilian commercial use for this kind of technology. But I do think this time in terms of military, I should say China this kind of reports often neglect that China's doctrine is always defensive. All this weaponry program were meant to deny any external threats instead of using it aggressively. But I think the two countries and other countries, we should actually start talking about how to make international agreements against using AI for mass destructive weapons, because in a sense AI can be very dangerous to enable some countries to make mass destructive weapons.
We have to
should
leave
talk
it
about
there.
that.
Thank you so much, Professor Wang Zhengxu from Fudan University and Douglas Smith joining us from the United States.